Three game changers coming to Old Trafford? United's summer plans just got real. Wait, did you see that? Three massive transfer updates dropped in the space of just 15 hours, and they're all pointing to one thing. Manchester United are finally ready to spend big this summer. Victor Gyokeres 7 hours ago. MATHEUS Cunha 8 hours ago. Ederson 15 hours ago. Three players who could completely change how we play next season. Three signings that would send a clear message to the rest of the Premier League. United are back in business. But here's the thing that's got everyone talking. These aren't just random names being thrown around by agents looking for new contracts. These are targeted moves that make perfect sense for what Ruben Amorim is trying to build at Old Trafford. So what's really going on here? Can we actually get all three players? And more importantly, would signing them finally get us back to where we belong? Let's dive into what could be the most exciting transfer window United fans have seen in years. Why these three names change everything. Before we get into each player, let's step back and look at the bigger picture. United have been linked with lots of players over the years, but most of the time it felt random. A winger here, a midfielder there, maybe a defender if we were lucky. No real plan, no clear direction. This feels different. These three signings would give us exactly what we've been missing. Goals, creativity, and defensive stability. More than that, they're all players who fit perfectly into Amorim's system. Think about it. When was the last time United were linked with three players in one day who all made sense? When did we last have transfer rumors that actually got fans excited instead of worried? The timing of these leaks is interesting too. All three stories broke within hours of each other, which suggests someone at United wanted them out there. Maybe it's a message to other clubs that we're serious about spending. Maybe it's a signal to current players that changes are coming. Either way, something big is happening behind the scenes at Old Trafford. Victor Gyokeres, the striker United have been crying out for. Let's start with the most recent update. Victor Gyokeres to Manchester United, just 7 hours ago. If you've been following football this season, you'll know exactly why this makes sense. The Swedish striker has been absolutely unstoppable for Sporting CP. We're talking about a player who's scored over 40 goals in all competitions this season. When did we last have a striker with numbers like that? You'd have to go back to the days of Van Persie to find anything close. But here's what makes this transfer different from the usual United rumor mill. Gyokeres has been playing under Ruben Amorim at Sporting. Our new manager knows exactly what this player can do, how he fits into the system, and what kind of personality he brings to the dressing room. That connection could be huge. How many times have we signed players who looked great on paper, but couldn't adapt to United's style of play? With Gyokeres, there's no guesswork involved. Amorim has already got the best out of him once. Why wouldn't he be able to do it again? The 26-year-old brings everything we've been missing up front. He's physical enough to handle Premier League defenders, fast enough to get in behind, and clinical enough to finish the chances our midfield creates. Most importantly, he knows how to score different types of goals. Headers, tap-ins, long shots, penalties, he can do it all. Here's a question for you. When did you last feel confident that United would score when we got into the opponent's box? With Gyokeres leading the line, that confidence could come flooding back. The only concern is the price. Sporting won't let their star striker go cheaply, especially to the manager who made him famous. But sometimes you have to pay premium prices for premium players. And right now, Gyokeres is as premium as they come. MATHEUS Cunha, the creative spark we've been missing. Just 1 hour after the Gyokeres news broke, another huge story dropped. MATHEUS Cunha from Wolverhampton Wanderers to Manchester United. Now we're talking about a completely different type of player, but one who could be just as important. Cunha has been one of the standout performers in the Premier League this season. Playing for a Wolves team that struggled at times, he still managed to contribute goals and assists on a regular basis. That tells you everything about his quality and mentality. What makes Cunha so attractive is his versatility. He can play as a striker, as a winger, or in the hole behind the main forward. In Amorim's system, that flexibility could be invaluable. Need more pace on the counterattack? Cunha can provide that. Want someone to link up play and create chances? He can do that too. The Brazilian has that South American flair that United fans love to see. He's comfortable on the ball, he's not afraid to try things, and he brings an element of unpredictability that's been missing from our attack for too long. But here's what might be most important. Cunha is entering his prime years at 25. If we sign him now, we could have 5 to 6 years of his best football. That's the kind of long-term thinking United need to get back to. The interesting thing about this rumor is the timing. Why are we being linked with both Gyokeres and Cunha? Are they alternatives to each other? Or is Amorim planning to use both players in the same team? Given how Amorim likes to set up his teams, there's definitely room for both. Gyokeres could be the main striker with Cunha playing off him or out wide. The movement and interchange between them could give defenders nightmares. Think about the possibilities. Cunha creating chances for Gyokeres to finish. Gyokeres holding up play to bring Cunha into dangerous areas. Both players capable of scoring goals and setting them up for teammates. That's the kind of attacking partnership that wins trophies. Ederson, the defensive rock United need. Now here's where things get really interesting. Ederson from Atlanta to Manchester United, first reported 15 hours ago. This might be the signing that makes the least headlines but could be the most important of all three. United fans know all about our defensive problems. We've conceded too many soft goals, we've looked vulnerable at set pieces, and we've lacked leadership at the back. Ederson could solve all of those issues. The Brazilian centre-back has been one of the best defenders in Serie A for the past few years. He's strong, he's quick, and he reads the game brilliantly. But what sets him apart is his ability on the ball. In Amorim's system, having defenders who can pass and carry the ball forward is crucial. Ederson ticks every box. He can defend properly when we don't have the ball, and he can help us build attacks when we do. That combination is rare and valuable. At 25, he's also the perfect age. Young enough to improve further, experienced enough to make an immediate impact. If we sign him, he could be our first-choice centre-back for the next decade. The Serie A connection is important too. Italian football is still the best place to learn how to defend properly. Players who succeed there usually adapt well to the Premier League because they understand the fundamentals of defending. Here's a question that might divide opinion. Would you rather have a defender who's spectacular but inconsistent, or one who's solid and reliable week after week? Ederson is definitely in the second category, and that might be exactly what United need right now. The price shouldn't be too crazy either. Atlanta are a selling club, and they'll probably be reasonable if a big offer comes in. Sometimes the best signings are the ones that don't make huge headlines but solve real problems. How would all three players fit together? This is where it gets exciting. Let's imagine all three deals happen and think about how Amorim could set up his team next season. In his preferred 3-4-3 formation, Ederson would be one of the three centre-backs. His passing ability would help us build from the back, while his defensive skills would give us the solidity we've been missing. Up front, Gyokeres would be the main striker with Cunha playing off him or starting wide and drifting inside. Both players are mobile enough to interchange positions, which would make us much harder to defend against. The beauty of this setup is the balance it provides. We'd have a solid defensive foundation with Ederson, creativity and goals from Cunha, and a proven finisher in Gyokeres. That covers all the bases. But here's what might be most important. All three players are at the right age and stage of their careers. They're not aging stars looking for one last payday, and they're not young prospects who might not develop. They're proven players entering their prime years. That's exactly the profile United should be targeting. Players who can make an immediate impact but also improve the team for years to come. The financial reality check. Let's talk money for a minute. Signing all three players won't be cheap. Gyokeres will probably cost at least 60 million, Cunha might be around 50 million, and Ederson could be 40 to 45 million. We're looking at over 150 million just in transfer fees. That's a lot of money. But here's the thing, we've wasted far more than that on players who didn't work out. At least this time, we'd be spending on players who make sense for the system and the long-term plan. The good news is that all three players are at ages where they should hold their value. If for some reason things don't work out, we should be able to recoup most of our investment. That's not always been the case with United's signings in recent years. There's also the wages to consider. None of these three are superstar names demanding ridiculous salaries. They're quality players who want to play football and win trophies. That's a much healthier approach than chasing big names who might not even want to be here. Recent reports suggest United are prepared to sell several current players to fund new signings. If that happens, the net spend might not be as scary as it first appears. What this says about United's new direction. Looking at these three potential signings tells us a lot about how United are planning to operate under Amorim and the new ownership structure. First, there's clearly a plan. These aren't random signings based on who's available or who other clubs want. Each player fills a specific need and fits a specific profile. Second, they're prioritizing players who can improve the team immediately. All three have proven themselves at high levels and wouldn't need years to develop. Third, they're looking at the right age group. Players in their mid-20s who are entering their best years and could be key players for 5 to 6 seasons. This feels like a much more mature approach than we've seen in recent transfer windows. Instead of panic buying or going for big names, there seems to be genuine strategic thinking behind these targets. Which deals are most likely to happen? Let's be realistic about which of these transfers are most likely to become reality. Ederson feels like the safest bet. Atlanta will sell for the right price, the player would probably jump at the chance to join United, and the fee shouldn't be prohibitive. This one has all the ingredients to happen quickly and smoothly. Gyokeres is more complicated because of the sporting connection. They might ask for a premium because they're losing their best player to their former manager. But the relationship between Amorim and the player could be the deciding factor. Cunha might be the trickiest because Wolves will fight hard to keep him. He's their best player, and they'll know that other clubs are interested too. This could turn into a bidding war, which might work in our favor or against us depending on how much we're willing to spend. If you had to guess, which one would you put your money on happening first? The domino effect of these signings. Here's something interesting to think about. If United do sign these three players, what happens to the current squad? Signing Gyokeres and Cunha would put pressure on our current attackers. Players like Rashford, Antony, and even Højlund might find themselves fighting for places or potentially looking for moves elsewhere. Bringing in Ederson would mean one of our current center-backs loses their place. That could be the push some players need to raise their game, or it could lead to departures. Change can be difficult, but sometimes it's necessary. If these three signings lead to some current players leaving, that might not be the worst thing for the club's long-term health. The key is making sure the new players are genuine improvements on what we have now. Based on current form and potential, all three targets pass that test comfortably. Fan expectations and reality. United fans are understandably excited about these rumors. After years of disappointing transfers and poor performances, the prospect of signing three quality players who actually make sense is refreshing. But let's manage expectations for a moment. Even if all three deals happen, it won't magically solve every problem. Football doesn't work like that. These players will need time to settle, to understand their teammates, and to adapt to Amorim's specific requirements. What these signings would do is give us a much stronger foundation to build on. Instead of worrying about basic defensive stability or whether we'll score enough goals, we could focus on the finer details of becoming a top team again. The Premier League is more competitive than ever. Having three players of this quality gives us a better chance of competing, but there are no guarantees in football. The international factor. One thing worth mentioning is how international football might affect these deals. Gyokeres plays for Sweden, Cunha for Brazil, and Ederson for Brazil too. All three countries have fixtures coming up, which could delay or accelerate transfer negotiations. Sometimes international breaks are when deals get done, away from the daily scrutiny of club football. Other times, players prefer to focus on their national team duties and leave transfer talk until later. The good news is that none of these three are likely to be playing in major tournaments this summer, so there shouldn't be any lengthy delays due to international commitments. What happens if we miss out? Let's consider the flip side for a moment. What if these deals don't happen? What if other clubs hijack our moves or the players decide they'd rather stay where they are? Missing out on one wouldn't be the end of the world, but losing all three would be a major blow to United's summer plans. It would suggest either that our ambition isn't being backed with action, or that players still don't see United as an attractive destination. That's why these next few weeks are so crucial. If United are serious about these players, they need to move quickly and decisively. In today's transfer market, hesitation usually means missing out. The encouraging thing is how quickly these rumors have emerged and developed. That suggests United are working behind the scenes to make things happen rather than just putting names in the media for show. The bigger picture for United. These 3 potential signings represent more than just improving the squad for next season. They're a statement about what kind of club United want to be. For too long, we've been a club that other players saw as a stepping stone or a final payday. Getting players like Gyokeres, Cunha, and Ederson would show that top-quality footballers in their prime still see United as a destination worth choosing. That shift in perception could be just as important as the players themselves. Once word gets around that United are signing good players and building something special, other targets become easier to attract. Football is often about momentum. One good signing leads to another, which leads to improved performances, which leads to better results, which attracts even better players. These 3 signings could start that positive cycle. What United fans should watch for. Over the next few days and weeks, keep an eye out for certain signs that these deals are progressing. If reliable journalists start reporting the same stories, that's usually a good sign that something real is happening. When multiple sources confirm interest, it often means clubs are actually talking. Watch for updates about personal terms being discussed or medical examinations being arranged. Those are usually the final steps before deals get announced. Also pay attention to what the players themselves say in interviews. If they start talking about loving United or respecting Amorim, that's often a hint that moves are being discussed behind the scenes. The timeline for getting things done. One advantage United have this summer is that they're being linked with these players relatively early. Getting business done before the season starts gives new signings time to settle and gives the manager time to work with his preferred team. Pre-season tours are coming up, and having new players involved from the start could make a huge difference to how quickly they adapt to United's style of play. There's also the psychological benefit of showing ambition early in the transfer window. It tells current players that the club is serious about improving, and it sends a message to rivals that United are back in the market for top players. The final verdict. So here we are. 3 potential signings that could transform United's prospects for next season and beyond. A striker who scores goals for fun, a creative forward who can unlock defenses, and a defender who could finally give us the stability we've been missing. Will all 3 deals happen? Probably not. Transfer windows are complicated, and there are always obstacles that appear along the way. But even getting 1 or 2 of these players would represent significant progress. What's most encouraging is that these rumors suggest United finally have a plan. Instead of scattergun approaches or panic buys, there seems to be genuine strategic thinking about what the team needs and how to get it. These 3 players would give Amorim the tools he needs to implement his vision at Old Trafford. They'd give United fans something to be excited about again. And they'd send a clear message to the rest of the Premier League that United are serious about getting back to where they belong. The next few weeks will tell us whether these exciting rumors turn into reality. But for now, it feels good to be linked with players who actually make sense, doesn't it? What do you think? Which of these 3 signings would make you most excited? And do you believe United can actually pull off all 3 deals? The summer transfer window is about to get very interesting indeed.